Well, hello there guys and welcome in. Today is a very, very exciting day in this channel's history. I've been on YouTube for nearly 3 years and I have never ever featured someone else on the channel. Today I got the man, the myth, the legend, Graham Stephan himself. If you don't know Graham Stephan, he's a very successful realtor out here in Los Angeles. He's also a very successful real estate investor. He owns multiple properties and he's also a very successful YouTuber with over 200,000 subscribers. I got a lot of very, very, very big questions I want to ask him today. I really want to do an in-depth interview and just kind of, see where his mindset is at. He surrounds himself with a lot of very, very successful people, a lot of people that make a lot of money, a lot of people that have a lot of money, and I think, his insights are going to be very, very valuable. So we're going to get into a lot of very in-depth stuff today, guys. And if you guys didn't know, on December 1st, we're going to throw an amazing conference out in Las Vegas. It is a full day with Graham and myself. We're going to be talking all about personal branding, building a brand online. We're going to be talking about real estate investing. Graham's going to go extremely in depth in that, and stock market investing outlooks and industries I'm looking into and whatnot. It's going to be an amazing day. That should be the pinned comment down there if you're interested in coming out to Las Vegas, spending a day with us. Come out and spend a day with us. So, cool. Graham, howdy. It is. Thank you for having me in your wonderful space here. Yeah, this is awesome. This is pretty cool. Yeah. So you surround yourself with a lot of very, very successful people, a lot of people that are making a lot of money. I see you on YouTube all the time with a lot of different creators, a lot of people that are doing a lot of big things on social media, a lot of people that are very young, like a lot of people that I noticed you're with are under.
I'm like the oldest one. Usually when I'm doing this, I'm 28. It's like, is it weird I'm hanging out with someone who's like 19, he's making like $100K a month?
These guys are making crazy money. Yeah. So I have a lot of questions around that. First off, is there a trait you notice that, all these people making all this money that you seem to surround yourself with, is there a trait that they have in common that you're like, this is why they're making so much money? Or is there something just there that you're like, I can understand why this person's making $100,000 a month or $1 million a month? Is there anything out there, Graham?
Yeah. By the way, there really is. And you can almost see it immediately when you meet someone that this is the type of person who is going to end up being more successful than someone else who's maybe a little bit less of a go-getter, if that makes sense. But I definitely see ambition and believing that they can do it as being really the biggest traits. Okay. Is that these are not people who sit around making excuses all day. I can't do this.
Complaining.
This isn't just, I can't make this, why me? But these are really people who truly believe in their core that they can go and do something, and they just go and do it. So in terms of a personality trait or characteristic, they all have that in common. Okay. Is that none of them make any excuses, and they just end up going out and doing it. And that's why I feel like we've all become friends and really end up working with each other, because none of us think oh no, we can't do that. It's just we all just go and do it.
It seems like when I notice so many people seem to just get down on themselves. They seem to throw themselves a pity party. Oh, I wasn't given this. I didn't have the tools to this, or just the non-confidence in themselves to go out and do something. When I think about my personal brand I built, your personal brand you've built, we started from nothing, and just have built amazing personal brands for ourselves and done a lot of great things out there. And a lot of that, in my opinion, is belief. And I think that's kind of what you're preaching there. It's just the belief.
Now, you touched briefly on confidence, and that was something I did want to mention. I was afraid of using confidence because I feel like a lot of people not necessarily are confident in themselves, but when it comes to whatever niche they're in or whatever business they're in, they're super confident. So all these people are super confident. It doesn't mean that they're confident when they walk down the street. It just means they're confident when they go on, let's say, Shopify, that they feel like, hell yeah, I know exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah, stay in your lane, I guess you could say. Another thing I kind of want to get into here is for you to get to know all these people, I would assume you've got to be outgoing. Or would you consider yourself outgoing? If you are not, how did you get to a place where you can feel comfortable talking to strangers either in person, because you're obviously a realtor, or speaking to people online you may have never met? How did you get to that place, or are you just someone that's always been that way since you were born?
Yeah. So two things. One is I'm not a naturally outgoing person. This is something that I've had to work extensively on. Okay. Because I would never have that type of personality to go out of my way to try to meet somebody. Okay. Second thing is that it's strictly because of YouTube has allowed me to meet so many people that I would never ordinarily get to meet.
That's a huge thing that a lot of people don't notice.
Ryan Serhant is a recent one that I would never, in what reality would I ever have the opportunity of talking to Ryan Serhant for a YouTube video.
If you guys don't know who that is, he's from Million Dollar Listings, New York. Anybody that watches that show, that's a very popular show on Bravo. And it's a great example.
I never had the opportunity to meet someone like that, but because of YouTube, I did. Same thing with
and he probably reached out to you, right?
Yeah, he reached out to me.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and just the connections that I've been able to make from YouTube alone are staggering. Like, I would never be able to meet these sort of people that I met from YouTube. But in terms of me being outgoing, I was never the type of person who was naturally just like really extroverted, going out all the time, talking to people. That did not come naturally to me. That was something that I knew I really had to work on. Working as a real estate agent really helped me push out of that a little bit, because you're forced to go and talk to all these people and really hone your social skills. Because if it were me, I'd probably be inside all the time, just watching Netflix, just doing my own thing, not talking to anybody that I didn't already know. So working as a real estate agent, first of all, kind of forced me to realize the importance of going out and networking and putting me in places where, like, if I'm at an open house, you got to learn how to talk to people. If I'm meeting clients, I got to learn how to talk to them. If I have a referral, I got to make something other than small talk in order to end up closing a deal. That pushed me out there a little bit. And then from there, I realized this is really important. You've got to go network. This is an area that I really have to focus on. So I really pushed myself from there.
Do you notice any difference or correlation in people that are introverts versus extroverts? Do you notice anything as far as, like, more shy people don't make as much money or anything like that? Do you notice any correlation there, or do you not really notice any correlation?
You know what, somewhat, but I don't want to generalize. If I were to generalize, I would say that usually I'd say the extroverted people end up doing a little bit better than the people who are shy. But I just think it's less of a personality trait on that than more about the situations they put themselves in. So I think extroverts are a little bit more likely to put themselves in situations where there's more opportunity. So they generally get more opportunity versus the shy people. Like, if I'm inside all day doing nothing, I guarantee, like, I wouldn't be meeting anyone. I wouldn't be doing anything, and nothing good would come my way. So I do want to say that, like, generally extroverted people have a little bit more of an advantage, but I don't think it's something that you just can't learn and improve on, because that was me. I had to learn and improve on that in order to get to, where it was today,
Now, so it's interesting, what you're doing out there. You're a successful realtor, you're a real estate investor. So those two kind of go together. I understand that, being a realtor, understanding real estate investing. But you're also a YouTuber, and what made you decide to take that leap on YouTube? What kind of, and why do you take it so serious? Because you take YouTube very, very, very serious. Like you're dedicated to uploading, a certain amount of times a week. You have very high quality videos. From just being a realtor and real estate investor, why take the leap on YouTube? Why focus on YouTube? What are your thoughts there?
It was always something I wanted to do. In 2000, I think it was 2010. Or 2011, this YouTuber, Rob Dahm, I don't know if anyone would use a car YouTuber at the time. He made a video about how he was able to buy a Lamborghini Diablo in his 20s. And I saw that, and I saw it was a mix between being inspirational and practical business advice. And when I saw this, I'm like, I love this whole concept. And this was 2011, before anyone was getting into, like, business advice or anything on YouTube. It was all pranks back then. But I saw Rob Dahm doing this, and I was like, this is what I want to do. But I didn't have the confidence to do it. So it took me like 4 years or longer than like 5 years later to actually get up the confidence to do that.
2015 was your start, or 2016?
December 25th, 2016.
So the very end of 2016.
Very end. So basically early 2017 is really when I started. But it's always something I wanted to do, so I figured, like, now is the time to start doing it. But in terms of keeping up the upload schedule and why I do it, it's so much fun. And it's like, in real estate, as working as an agent, there's very little creativity that goes into it. It's very much, here's a process and a formula you follow, and you just stick with this and you can sell homes. Even as a real estate investing, sure, there's a little bit more creativity that goes into that, but it's just not my own. Like, I really wanted something that was me, that I would have full creative control over, that I would talk about things that I find interesting, and also because not a lot of my friends find, like, personal finance and stuff really interesting. So now I have
hundreds of thousands of friends on YouTube that I can talk about personal finance to, and they like it.
You realize how many people are really into, like, I never thought as many people are into the stock market that, like, for instance, follow my channel. Like, I never thought like this many people would be interested, and especially at a lot of young ages. Like, a lot of my viewers are in their 20s and 30s.
Yeah.
And, traditionally, I always thought about stock market investing as, oh, that's for like people that are, retired or in their 60s or 70s or 80s. And then you realize there's this massive communities of people that are into the same stuff you're into.
No, it's a young person's thing now. I really believe that everything's shifting.
Yeah, it's exciting. So, you're surrounding yourself with a lot of people who are doing very well financially, okay? I have a question for you. First off, did you ever play video games growing up? And second, the reason I asked that question is, do you almost feel like some people view making money as a video game, like once they get up to a certain level? Like, obviously you need a certain amount of money to live off of. Yeah. Then you start taking up to levels where if you're making $30,000, $50,000, $100,000, $1 million a month, let's say, that's way more money than an average person needs, for instance. Do you feel like some people treat it as a video game? Do you see any of that out there? Is it become like more of a game at that point, or what are your thoughts there?
Yeah, so I played video games as a kid. Like Nintendo 64 was the highest game console I got up to. So basically anything past like 2002, I never played video games past then, but Nintendo 64 was Tony Hawk Pro Skater. Banjo-Kazooie, like all of those games I played. I had not played video games since then, besides like the odd game on the cell phone. But in terms of seeing it like a game, yes and no. I think when you're making that amount of money, let's say $500,000 a month or $100,000, whatever it might be, you do that for a few months and all of a sudden that becomes normal to you and you get used to it. So in order to get that same excitement or same level of high of just like made $100K this month, let's see, all of a sudden it's just like you need $200K for the the next month, and it's like that's a good month. But then all of a sudden, $300,000 now becomes your good month, and $500,000. So I think it's a combination of enjoying the process, but also you need to constantly be pushing yourself, because I think anytime you just feel comfortable with something, you end up stagnating.
100%. You start going down.
You start going down. As soon as you become complacent about something, that's when everything goes downhill. So I think as long as you have to continue pushing yourself, that's what keeps you going and motivated. It's a double-edged sword because you're never satisfied, but also it helps you get to the next level and continue improving yourself. So it's a good thing and a bad thing.
And I think some people have the view on people that are making money out there as this person, oh, they're greedy, they just want to make more money, they're money obsessed or something like that. The way I kind of think about it is, if you're a competitive person, you always want to push to the next level. You always want to get better, okay? So let's say money's part of the game, right? If you're not really, getting better, you're getting worse, okay? Think about it as an athlete. No one ever judge an athlete saying, oh, the athlete, he's so greedy trying to get better and better. Look at him running those sprints out there. Look at him lifting all those weights. He's so greedy, right? But in money, I think some people, for instance, maybe not so many of the people that watch our channels, but a lot of people I think just have that negative attitude that this guy's trying to make extra money, he's greedy, he's a bad person or something, when really it's just competitive spirit, man. And if you aren't taking things to the next level, then you're going the wrong way. I agree. Okay, so one more question I want to ask you here, and then we're going to kind of take a break for a minute, and then we'll come back to the second half of the interview. Is so when I met my wife, I was living in a one-bedroom apartment. I was working at a convenience store and whatnot as an overnight assistant manager. So needless to say, I didn't have a lot of money, right? And we started dating and things progressed throughout the year. She ended up becoming my wife. We had kids, everything. But, from my understanding right now, are a single bachelor. He's available, ladies. He's available, okay?
Slide the DMs.
You're available out there.
Link to my Instagram.
You're available out there, and you're doing very well financially in life, okay? So my question for you is, do you find it, do you ever think like maybe someone might be interested in me just because they know I have money, I have real estate properties, if they know something like that about you, I have a successful personal brand, I'm successful financially, I'm going places in my life because you're already at that place? Do you feel like some people might try to use you to get there? Like, what are your thoughts about having money, being single?
So I've actually had a girlfriend the last 2 years up until recently. So this has really been the first time where I've actually been upfront about like finances and stuff publicly. In the past, they would have no idea how much I would make because I would never spend money. So in terms, so it didn't really matter. You
Taco Bell dates, ladies.
It's only recent that someone can look me up online or watch the YouTube channel and all of a sudden know everything about my finances. So that's something recent. You know, in terms of that, like the way I think is that if they're after me for my money, I'm like the total wrong person for that because I don't spend any of it. Like I feel like they would rather the broke dude who's out there like balling every single weekend than someone like me who's just like, no, I'd rather not get the avocado. That's $1 extra. I'd rather
no avocado toast.
So like I would be such a terrible person if they are interested in money. I do think it certainly helps. I mean, it really helps. But I think, and I hate to say it, but I feel like the following in terms of having like large numbers on Instagram or YouTube is more important than money. Like I hate to say it, but like a dude could have $1 million. Would the girl rather have? And again, this we're making a lot of generalizations here. But if you put the average girl or woman, I should say, to choose between $1 million or someone worth $1 million or have 1 million followers, I would say that most in their early 20s, which is kind of like where I'm, would be dating, would prefer the 1 million followers because I think socially, I think it's more advantageous to have more followers than money if you're just trying to attract dates. But so far, I've not had the experience where I've felt like anyone is using me for following. I've not seen that yet, but I'm sure it would happen.
Looking at myself personally, I would be paranoid of that. Like if I was on the dating scene, I'm glad I'm married. Some guys always say, make the money first, then get the girl. I would just caution you guys, sometimes that can be a little scary because you don't want to find that gold digger who's only trying to use you for your money. I'm just going to say that.
But yeah, it does make things easier. From what I've seen, it just at least it opens up the door. For whoever wants to come in. It's just there's a very wide door that people like to walk into. But
I want to take a break and then we'll get back with part 2. Alrighty guys, welcome back to part 2 of this interview. So a lot more big questions. Some of these I'm looking so forward to the answers on, guys. First one let's start out with here is there are a lot of people that can never imagine themselves making 5 figures a month or 6 figures a month or maybe even 6 figures or 7 figures a year. What would you tell a person who doesn't have much hope or confidence out there that they can get to a level where not only can they support themselves, they can support a family, they can have extra money to invest, and they can really live the American dream? Like, what would you tell them? What type of advice would you give to somebody who just doesn't have the confidence they can do it?
My biggest thing for me is just realizing that other people are doing it, and if they're doing it, there's no reason why I can't do it as well. I remember too when I was working as a real estate agent. I mean, I thought the idea of someone making $200,000 a year was mind-blowing. I'm like, oh my god, like maybe one day when I'm like 50 I can make like $200,000 a year, like maybe. And then all of a sudden I would get like lease applications from people writing like $50,000 a month. And I remember when I saw that someone wrote $50,000 a month, I'm like, don't they mean per year? They make per month? And that was just like, I think I was like 18. I'm like, someone is actually doing that. That's crazy. And then all of a sudden you realize that like there are like 17-year-olds that are now doing that online. So just seeing other people achieving that all of a sudden makes it seem like it's a reality. Like you can really do that yourself. And especially, and I hate to say it, and I'm not addressing this towards anyone in particular, but oftentimes you can see someone doing like, let's say, I'm just going to throw out a number there, but let's say $1 million a month, let's just say. And you realize, wait a second, they suck. If they can do $1 million a month and they're terrible, why can't I do that too? So just seeing that it's possible gets rid of that limiting belief. Now, I've seen that in person, which for me has a greater impact than seeing someone do that online that you're not like connected with. But when you meet someone in person and you get to see that like they're no different than me, and there's no reason why I can't do that too, that really gives you the confidence to be like, well, you know what, maybe I should do that.
I see that in sports all the time. People wonder why, a certain family has so many players in the NFL or NBA or something like that. I see it all the time. Once somebody makes it, all of a sudden everybody around them starts feeling like, man, I can make it too. If you have no one around you that is financially successful, making, at least $10,000 plus a month, $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, you start to view life as like, how am I ever going to do that? I come from this situation where, everybody around me is broke. It seems so unrealistic until you start to put yourself in situations where you're around people that are actually doing it and your mind just kind of opens up and it's like, I think I can do that as well. Yep.
Very true.
And another thing I want to bring out that kind of leads into this is, Are you kind of a believer in you are who you hang around with, and the people you surround yourself is kind of partially where your life ends up going? What are your thoughts around that?
100%. I want to say of everyone I hang out with, like the most often, I'm like the broke one. I'm like, why am I even here? No, for real though. But like anytime I go into my office, it's like, I'm with the two people that own the brokerage, and they do millions per year. In commissions for themselves. I mean, these are people who are making like $300,000, $400,000 a month. Wow. And I'm sitting there being like, what am I doing here? Even going and hanging out with people like Kevin David or Ricky Gutierrez or anybody else, it's just like pulling in these insane numbers, and I'm sitting there and be like, you sure I belong here? You guys? Like, you sure? But no, honestly, like absolutely, because you learn so much from these different perspectives that are so beyond what you've been doing, and you can pick and choose and implement the little bits that you like for yourself, and then all of a sudden you end up doing better in the process. Like I've definitely made more money and been more successful with the people I hang around, as long as they're like, they're more motivated and they kind of push you and inspire you.
A lot of times people have trouble, like, say they have their inner circle. Maybe it's family members, friends, and those people aren't doing too well. A lot of times I feel like, those family members sometimes even unfortunately can bring you down and pull you away. How can someone get out of that situation where, they have family members pulling them down, saying you can't do this, you can't do that, that cousin, that uncle, whoever, or just friends that just, seem to pull them down and never let them reach the next level?
Well, I think it's different from like you have like broke friends who are like really supportive and like, maybe they're making like 30K a year or whatever, but they're like your best friends and like you get along great and they push you. I think that's different than people who are like really negative trying to bring you down. And I've seen both. Like I have friends that don't make any money, but they're just best friends. I love them no matter what. But then you also have people that are just super negative all the time. Like I know a few people who are like pretty well off, but like you hang around them for 30 minutes and you're just drained. You're just like, oh, I feel like crap now. So I think that's the difference. But if you have negative people, you have to cut them out because they will drain you and they will put you down just mentally. Like anytime you're around someone who's just, and I hate to categorize people, but you hang around people who are just sad all the time or depressed all the time or come up with excuses or, oh, you can't do that, or no, you shouldn't do that, that's not a good idea, oh, why is that, it really does take a toll. Absolutely. And as hard as it is to cut people like that out, I think it's important, one, to recognize that and to know if it is affecting you. You don't have a choice. I mean, if you want to break out of that, you have to take a step back from that and cut back the time you spend with that person.
Just easier said than done.
Absolutely. Yep, I 100% agree. Now, okay, so here's some hard real estate questions now, all right?
Ready.
So we're getting into the juicy stuff now.
Okay.
So one, you're a YouTuber, okay? That's one part of your life. The other part, you're a realtor. In my personal view, maybe wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like being a realtor is a slowly dying industry. I think over time, over the next 5, 10, 15 years, you're gonna see less and less people that are realtors, and especially less and less that are actually successful, where they're making enough money to support themselves or support their family. I feel like that industry is slowly dying. Am I correct? Am I wrong? What are your views on that?
So I don't think it's a slowly dying industry, but I see it from a different perspective of seeing how involved the real estate transaction is and just how emotional people get. When you're talking about something as personal as someone's home, where they have, chances are, spent a significant portion of their life, and a lot of big moments, like people have gotten married, had started families in their homes, had a personal connection with their home. Like the one that I just bought, the seller just started crying. It's clearly because she loved the house. I mean, this is where she had her kid, and like she was really upset to see it go. And this is someplace, but she was crying because she missed the home. And then here I am, just like taking the keys. I'm like, thank you very much. You're not going to see this, but it's a very emotional experience. It's not something where it's necessarily like going and buying a car, and you can do a lot of it online, and you can do a lot of negotiating yourself. It's a very a detailed experience, and a very in-depth experience where it's not just you're looking at the numbers and the price per square foot. It's also you're dealing with stubborn people, people whose egos are getting in the way, people who feel their home is worth way more because they raise their family in it and it's better than every other home. But you're also dealing with a lot of intricacies of a sale in terms of what if, you know, there's a lien on the property that's undiscovered, what if there's, you know, something wrong with the foundation. So let me address this two ways. One is that yes, you can streamline that process in the sense of I'm going to get an escrow company to handle all of the, you know, the intermediary between monies exchanged. Hire a title company to make sure that there's no liens on the property. I can hire, let's say, a lawyer to make sure I'm doing all my inspections and make sure all the contracts work out. You can expedite a lot of these things, but from my perspective, as a real estate agent, it's a lot more of being an advisor or strategizing and being a consultant than it is necessarily a salesman. So if the industry does shift, I do think it's going to shift in such a way where I'm going to be a consultant. And advise the seller, you should do this, this is how you should prepare the home, this is how you should price it. It's just as much strategic.
Do you feel like, let's say, you know, I'm sure you know some of them, okay, and I'm sure there are a lot of them around the United States, and not everybody fits in this category, but there probably are a lot of lazy, let's say, realtors out there.
100%, yeah.
Do you feel like those guys and gals are going to go away over the next 5 to 10 years 100%. Because it's going to...
Yeah, 100%, without a doubt. I'm driven. But you see, but two things. You see that in every industry.
True.
There's going to be lazy people who are not going to be there 5, 10 years from now. But in real estate, I think it's only getting more competitive. As things do shift online and people can become a lot more selective, it's really like 20% of the agents end up doing 80% of the business. It's been true just throughout any industry. So any lazy person is just never going to be successful to begin with. There are so many agents out there that just shock me how they're still in business. They shock me. But that's also why I think right now it's really easy to stand out and be successful. If you just do above the bare minimum, if you just do a little bit more above the bare minimum, you will be successful. I mean, there's nothing special about me in terms of becoming a real estate. Like, there's nothing special about me. But if you do, I did the bare minimum plus a little bit, and that's it. I mean,
let me take this one step further here. Here's how I think about Zillow, okay? And I think about the, you know, how big Zillow has gotten. Ticker symbol Z if anybody's interested. Zillow. So this is a company I view as a Trojan horse to kind of real estate and realtors and whatnot, where it comes in and it kind of looks like it's a great thing. It gets people out there looking at homes on their iPads and their phones and their Macs and all that type of stuff more than they've ever, you know, have done in the past. They look at pricing, they look at estimates, they look at all this different stuff. You know, price history, they have access to so much more than ever before. I feel like it's a Trojan horse similar to what Amazon actually did to, let's say, Toys R Us, where Amazon, if you guys at home don't know, Amazon, what they did is they used Toys R Us back in the 90s. They got a ton of intel from Toys R Us. Then they ended up breaking their contract with Toys R Us, and they ended up just selling toys on Amazon.com. They were part of the reason why Toys R Us ended up going bankrupt down the road. Do you feel like, am I too, if I have too of an aggressive a view of Zillow as far as their being a Trojan horse and kind of really coming in this space, or do you think
because it's real estate is really a service industry. It's not like you have, you know, this specific product here and all of a sudden Amazon can sell it for cheaper because they sell more of them. It's in real estate, it's a lot more of a service industry that you pay a premium really for that expertise. Now, what I am seeing with Zillow, first of all, they make most of their money from advertising, what's called the Zillow Premier Agent. So that's how they're making most of their money, is real estate agents going and paying for space to advertise on Zillow. So when you go and look at it, you see, let's say, my name come up over Sally's name. You can't really... You can undercut someone, and that's what Redfin has been doing. But again, you're getting a service, not necessarily a product. So the only difference I have seen Zillow, Redfin, Trulia, all these websites are doing is that they're bringing information to the public. Now, the biggest difference that I'm seeing is that I'm getting a lot more people, let's say I have a listing, calling me directly and saying, we know you have the listing on this. Can we work out a deal where you give us back some of the commission, but you can represent us? Because a lot of buyers feel that, and sometimes they're correct and sometimes they're not. It really depends on the agent, that you can get a better deal going straight to the listing agent than working with your own buyer's agent. And the reason I feel like they think this is because, first of all, most buyer's agents suck. I mean, they're terrible and they are not worth the money, and that's the reality.
Okay, that's a big comment.
That's the reality of it.
Wow.
You get a good buyer's agent, they will save you so much more money than you end up spending in commission for them. Same thing with a listing agent.
Well, on the buyer side, it usually is covered by the seller, right?
It's usually covered by the seller, correct. But if you can work with a listing agent and say, listen, you're taking 5% and I'm giving away, like now people know how to negotiate with me. But they're thinking, if you're getting 5%, how about you get 4% and you represent me? You know, and most listing agents hear this and like, absolutely. Now there is risk in doing a dual agency, but in most situations, I would say with a good listing agent, we'll end up saving a buyer more money than a crappy buyer's agent representing them.
Okay.
So that's what I am finding more of. But in terms of actually selling a house, it's so strategic. It's not like a product that you can go and undercut. It's like, how do you prepare a home? It's so individual and specific for that home that there's not a one size fits all.
And the difference in money can be tens of thousands or maybe hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it's a big transaction, absolutely. So we've talked a lot about, you know, kind of YouTube, your realtor side. We've also talked about kind of, you know, mindsets of, you know, kind of taking things to the next level. We haven't talked much about real estate investing. Obviously, you're a very successful real estate investor. How many properties do you know?
It'll be 6 as of Tuesday. So by the time I guess this is posted, it'll be 6, and that'll be 10 units.
I'll tell you, not many people have 6 properties ever in their life, never mind at the age you do. So that's amazing.
These, by the way, are like most of them are in Los Angeles, so we're not talking about like 6, you know, $100,000 homes. Like one home is worth like 1.4. Holy smokes. One this one's worth 850. The other one's worth about 850.
So do you believe, one, that anybody can become a real estate investor? And the second part is, if they are not believing they can become a successful real estate investor, what do you think is keeping people from that? Is it the knowledge? Is it the confidence, the belief? Like, what are your thoughts around this?
So everyone can become a real estate investor. I mean, it's pretty simple to do as long as you're good with, like, you got to be good with your own personal finance. I think lending will open up a little bit more so that less qualified people will be able to get mortgages. I don't think that's a good thing, but in order,
it's a little scary.
In order to start investing, like you have to be good enough that you'd have a good credit score, have a decent income, and have a decent savings. Now, I want to say for 90% of people out there, they're already disqualified from just that because they don't have that under control. Their spending is through the roof. They don't have any savings, and their credit is in the toilet. So for most people, it's probably not going to get into it. But for the people that are disciplined enough, absolutely you can get into it. The biggest hurdle I had was a lack of knowledge and the insecurity of like, am I getting a good deal? Am I making the right choice? How do I know this is the right choice? And especially when you're working with a real estate agent, in the very beginning, when it's your first property, you don't know what you're doing. They're so biased into closing you into a deal. And you almost distrust them because they're like, they have a financial incentive in me buying. Are they really giving me the best advice, or do they just want me to buy something and
get that commission?
I'm never going to hear from them again? That is the biggest thing that I have seen. And it would have been a lot harder for me to get into real estate investing if I wasn't a real estate agent, because I already knew by the time I was getting into it exactly what I was doing. I can't imagine what it would be like for someone to start right now without having years of experience working as a real estate agent. Like, it's easy for me now, and it's easy for me to advise people, but at the same time, I wouldn't have been able to start if I didn't have that experience. Besides just reading books and stuff, but like when you actually do it firsthand, it's really scary.
Now, okay, another juicy question time. So, you know, the 2008 massive recession that happened, part of the reason why we had such a big recession was a lot of people had bought a lot of houses, okay? There was the stories about strippers buying 2, 3, 4, 5 houses. I remember I was watching a documentary recently called The Queen of Versailles, and this guy who's like a limo driver for them, he's talking about he had 19 houses at one point, and he went down to 0, literally. He was like living with, you know, relatives or whatnot. He had a net worth 3.5 million, went down to 0 very fast. Do you feel like any of that is going on in the market currently, where we have people loading up on houses, real estate investing, just buying property, flipping the money really fast? Do you feel like we have any of that now, and do you feel like we're at risk of going into something like that very soon?
The answer to that is no, because right now, a lot of people that have been buying are buying on fixed long-term mortgages. So they're buying at like 3.5% interest, 4% interest over 30 years where the payment's not going to be fluctuating. And when they do buy something, they're buying with, at minimum, over the last few years, 15% down, minimum. Typically what I'm finding is 20 to 35% down. is how much people are putting in the properties on long-term fixed rate mortgages. So you don't have that risk of these people buying properties that they can't afford or buying properties with the intention of flipping them really quick. You do get developers out there who are going and buying properties, obviously, and trying to flip them, which I think is going to be a lot more difficult in the coming years. But at least from fundamentals, I'm not saying anything that's going to lead to a huge, crash because people are buying things they can't afford or speculating on these investments. I think that's the difference is people are buying now on fundamentals versus speculating and thinking like, well, the market has to go up 15% next year and then I can cash out and make money. So that's the biggest difference that I'm seeing. The only risk that I see in terms of housing prices right now is interest rates. And they have skyrocketed over the last week. They've gone up way too much. I mean, they went up faster than I ever thought would be possible. Like, I locked in 3 weeks ago at 4.5% interest for 30 years. That same thing right now is 4.9 in 3 weeks. Yeah. Which makes would have made my mortgage like $200 a month more expensive, just like that for 30 years.
And then that rent you'd have to be charging $200+ more expensive. Yeah.
Right, to get that, which we don't support $200 more in rent here in Los Angeles, so that doesn't work. Wow. It's either people eat the cost or prices have to adjust a little bit. So I don't see that we're going to see a crash or anything like this. If anything, I think affordability is going to remain the same because if prices come down 35 grand, that's the same thing as me paying $200 more on a mortgage. If that makes like interest rates going up means the price has to come down for it to equalize. Yeah. So I don't see it over 20, 30 years. It doesn't matter at all. Like a lot of people are doing this with a long-term outlook. But the people who are buying right now with the intention of selling in the next 1 to 3 years, I think would have to get really lucky with appreciation, value add in terms of like fixing up the property, or they're going to be screwed. So you have to buy it with equity or fix it up in order to make money in this market.
So it's not a flipper's market, at least your outlook. Not a flipper's
I would not
market.
Flip anything. Okay. Right, absolutely not. If you buy something with the intention of holding it 10 to 20, 30 years, great. Just make sure you get a good deal. If you're buying something to sell, I personally wouldn't do it.
Okay. Yeah. So we're coming to the end here. I just want to kind of get into two last questions here, okay? The first of those questions is around personal branding. You've built an amazing personal brand for yourself. And when it comes to personal branding, how much has that changed your life financially, all right? Yeah. And then also, not only that, but why are more people not going after this, all right? Why are more people not attacking this? And then we'll get into
so in terms of personal brand, I don't think it's just financial because, to be honest, if we calculate how much time I put in YouTube so far in personal brand versus how much time I would put in real estate, as of right now, I would have made way more money putting all of this into selling homes than I would on YouTube. Right now, I'm not sure. Yeah. Eventually, I'm sure the tables will turn. Yeah. But if I put the same amount of energy in real estate, I would have made way more money.
And most people, if they found out how much you were making, they would say that man is doing very well on YouTube.
Right,
so,
right.
Like, yeah, that's an interesting comment.
But in terms of that, the value that I've got from YouTube so far is in the connections that I've made and the outreach that I have. If I wanted to make more money on YouTube right now than real estate, I could easily do that within a few weeks if I just if I decide to sell out. Yeah. I mean, oh my God, the amount of ICO cryptocurrency videos I could be making right now for literally $3,000 to $5,000 for like a 1 minute, like check out my scam coin 2019, buy it before it's all out. I could make so much money doing this. But I've chosen to take a really slow approach. So the benefit that I've got so far from YouTube is in the connections and the credibility that all of a sudden, just because you have a following, people care what you have to say.
You have influence.
And I have not changed over the last 2 years from having, I think, like 200 and something followers on Instagram to now like 19,000 to having nothing on YouTube to 215 or 16,000 or whatever it is. Nothing has changed. My opinions are still exactly the same. It's just now people care about what I have to say because other people care about it. So it's like, but financially, it's more been a fun sort of thing. But I have a feeling at some point YouTube is going to eventually be more profitable. And maybe at that point, it's just a decision of like, where do I want to spend my time and what do I enjoy doing more? And also, what do I think is a safer approach long term? Because YouTube, I think, is extremely risky. And I personally wouldn't feel comfortable, at least right now, putting all my eggs in YouTube because it's so sporadic. It's so variable, at least from right now, versus real estate, which I've been doing like 10 years. Stable. I know I have it on lock. I know even if the market turns down, I'm still going to earn around the same amount of money.
You have a lot of clients and customer relationships.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. A decade now of repeat business and clients and everything that I at least have a solid base. YouTube is just risky. Yeah. So I think at some point I have a feeling YouTube will end up making more money, and at that point I'll decide
But why are more people not going after personal branding? Do they not know that there's this huge opportunity, or do they not think they can do it? Like, what is it?
First of all, I don't think people know just how valuable it is and what they can do. But also, I think people feel like, why me? Like, what is so interesting about me that people would even care in the first place?
Goes back to that confidence.
Yeah, so I think it is a confidence thing, and also believing that people actually do want to listen to what you have to, because I didn't believe that anyone would want to care would what I would have to say. So when I started making videos, I really thought, like, if 20 people see my video, like, that's a success.
Yeah.
And I thought, no one cares about what I have to, because I would also look at other people who were like a few years older than me in real estate that were making way more money. I'm like, why would they listen to me when they can just listen to Joe over here who's doing double my sales? Is only a year older than me. So just from that, like, I'm a nobody compared to Joe. Yeah. So a lot of people think that, like, why would they care? Yeah. But you would be surprised how many people care and want to watch.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So coming to the close now, final question. Where does Graham Stephan see himself in 3 years? Where do you see yourself?
Geez. That is a really good question. And I don't, to be honest, I don't 100% know. If you ask me what I see myself a year from now, I see, like, the exact same. So that's, I don't know. I don't know the answer to this question, because I really only look at, like, what's the next, like, I don't even know if my video I'm going to be posting on Friday. Like, that's where I'm at right now, is I have no idea.
You're so focused on the game right now.
Yeah, I mean, kind of where I see myself is that, at least right now, when I'm making this video, I'm done buying real estate. Like, I feel like I've bought as much as I feel comfortable with, given the, what could happen in the short term. Okay. I feel like I've taken on as much debt as I feel comfortable with. So at least for the next few years, I'm thinking, like, I would be super happy I just save cash. Wow. I could just save up. I need, like, a good nest egg at this point. Like, if I can get, like, a good, let's say, $300,000 to $500,000, it's just sitting there that I can deploy in the future. That's what I would like to do, at least financially. In terms of business, I mean, I'd love to be able to increase what I'm doing on YouTube. I'd love to see if I can work that out and spend a little bit more time on YouTube than do real estate, because I've just enjoyed that a lot more. And I think I want to get more into public speaking. It's a big thing. Speaking of which, if you guys do not come out December 1st, I'm going to be greatly disappointed. I'm going to cry if you don't end up getting a ticket to this, because it's going to be a good event. But eventually, I want to get into more public speaking. I feel like that is going to be a lot more stable than doing YouTube. I feel like that is going to have a lot more longevity. And I think there's just something about seeing someone in person that you pick up on that energy that you can't do online.
Yeah, it's true.
So I want to get into that.
This, I hope, has been a very interesting interview. We got a lot of insights out of Graham. We've had to pull it out of him a little bit, but we got a lot of good knowledge out of him today. And if you want to come spend a day with us in Las Vegas, it should be the pinned comment down there. If not, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hit a thumbs up if you enjoyed. Check out Graham's channel if you want. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.